Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time on Facebook.com, YouTube.com, both /WakeUpCallDT, and on WakeUpCallDT.podbean.com. Tonight, we are here with the Syracuse Mets General Manager, Jason Smorol, from the Wildcat Sports Pub, and we're here at the Wildcat every month for going on 8 years now, over 7.5 years that we are here every month with our special broadcast. This is the Syracuse Mets Spotlight. Jason, how are you?
I'm super fantastic, Dan. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, and I like that you bring positive energy. You seem to always have an amped up type of way. Have you always been that way?
There's the only way to go through life. You have to accentuate the positive, forget about the negative, and what's your alternative? I'd rather be positive and take a positive view and an energetic view and give everything 100% versus complaining and whining about things and putting things in your own control to make things happen. And for me, it's a better way to go about my life and just try to keep positive all the time. There's always a silver lining. I'm a half full kind of guy.
Well, I like what you said because my grandmother, never forgot it, I called her G-Mama. She lived to be just shy of 101.
Wow.
And I asked her one day, I said, Grandma, you see the news, you read the newspaper, why are you always positive? And she said, what's the alternative? That's what you're talking about.
And there's just so many good people out there, and there's always something.
Yeah.
That's good about your day and good about your life, and
that's what you're talking about.
Think about that sometimes, and there's always going to be negative stuff. You just got to push. It's like parsley. Push it to the side and keep on getting to the good food.
Yeah, I like that. Some people eat parsley, though. I don't understand those people. Some people they think they're supposed to eat everything off the plate, I guess.
See, I love everything. I like parsley too. I eat that too. I'm like, oh, that's some good parsley. I can make a nice green sauce out of that parsley.
There you go. You make something out of it. So, making something out of what you have, talking on the Syracuse Mets, it's such a unique world to be in AAA baseball because when you have a strong team and you have these great up-and-coming players, the Mets, in your case, are going to see that, and they're going to say, hey, those guys are doing pretty good in AAA. Why don't we pick them up for this injury or take this guy and shift him here? So there's always a dance, and you and I have talked about it before, of when you have strong talent when it comes to prospects, you're also in a position to lose them all the time.
Well, we always have to remember, they're their players. They're the New York Mets. So, but that is a compliment to the Mets organization. So they have been committed to building up the farm system.
Yeah.
And we're seeing, and it takes some time to see the fruits of those labors. So it's taken a few years to get guys like Mauricio and to get Alvarez and these young guys, up here. And because the Mets are so good, we started the season with the four biggest prospects in the organization: Brett Beatty, Francisco Alvarez, Ronnie Mauricio, Mark Vientos. And then we were going to start the season with David Peterson and Tyler McGill as the starting pitchers, and we were going to be unbelievable. But injuries happened. Peterson started the season upstairs. Another injury, Tyler McGill went upstairs. They weren't hitting. They wanted another injury. Alvarez goes upstairs. They wanted just to bring Brett Beatty, who was just killing it, upstairs. You can't blame him. The guy he's hitting. He's killing it. Let's bring him upstairs. So they're there. I hope we never see those guys ever again. But if things change and they got to come back, they come back. But that's a good thing, and we just try to get that message out to the fans that see these guys while they're here, because they're not going to be here for long. And we still have Mauricio, and we still have and Vientos, and those guys may only be here for another month or so, because if Vientos keeps hitting the way he's hitting, they're already seeing them move Mauricio to another position to make his path easier to get upstairs. It's like the guy who played shortstop behind Derek Jeter all those years for the Yankees. We don't know who that person is. Francisco Lindor is not going anywhere. We don't want him to get hurt. So they need to get a bat like Mauricio, a talent like Mauricio upstairs, maybe. So now you see them playing him at second base in different positions.
And you mentioned Brett Beatty, and we saw him come up to the Syracuse Mets last season, and I think I might have told you this, but when he came up, I have, extended family, I call them, close friends down in Texas, and as soon they saw that I was at the game, I took a picture, and they were like, hey, say hi to Beatty while you're there. And within a couple weeks, it was like, I saw him, he got called up, first time at bat, cranks a homer for the New York Mets. And then we see him here, and first thing I say to myself is, wow, you know what, I can't believe he's here, and that he didn't start up there. So we'll get to see him for a few weeks. We got to see him for a couple days, and then he was called up again. So he's a special talent.
He really is a great guy. He keeps it positive. He just goes to work every day. The guy can hit. He can just flat out hit. He was here 6 days last year, and he hit 350 or 360. He was hitting 400 for a little bit here. I think he had slipped down to 380 or 367 before they called him up. And he's just, he's a special player. He's just one of those guys that when he's out there on the field, you can just tell he's just about better than everybody else. And that's the nice part of having a AAA team here. Whether you're here to see the Mets players, of tomorrow, today, or the Scranton Yankees coming in, or the Worcester Red Sox, and seeing all those players, Aaron Judge came through here, Severino came through here, Demers came through here, Bogarts came through here. All those players that you see in the major leagues, for the most part, depending on their organization, have stepped foot in historic NBT Bank Stadium, and you can see them for cheap.
In NBT Bank, it's such a beautiful. I feel like we're spoiled here, because when you go and when you see the stadium from the outside and it's just pristine, then you go in and you sit in the ballpark. I caught myself a lot of times last year saying to myself, this is AAA. It doesn't feel like AAA. And I grew up on MacArthur, but I got to give it up to NBT. There's something special about walking in there, and that's your office, so I'm sure that's fun for you.
It's fantastic, and that's AAA now. Everybody's got a nice ballpark, so, we were on that other end of the spectrum there for a while, with the old stadium, and it was 25 years old at the time, 24 years old at the time, and it just needed a facelift, so it was great that the county and the states and the Mets got together to make this happen, and now, we're one of the crown jewels. I'll put our stadium up against anybody. And mostly the field, and the visualness of it, because the color, that orange and that blue just pops. You go to a lot of these new stadiums that spend a lot more money to build them than we did. And they're bland, they're concrete, and they're steel. They just don't have that color. So the new renovation's great. There's still so many people that haven't seen it. So if you haven't seen it, come on out. And it's just a great stadium. And like you said, when you come up, she's still an old stadium that still has that size and that girth that a lot of the new stadiums don't have. And it looks like a stadium. So I love working there. And I love people coming in and still complimenting us on how great it looks.
Yeah, it's just, and the thing that I like that you guys have kind of gained in a way is I know there's a bunch of Yankee fans that are here in Syracuse that will put on some orange and blue for the Syracuse Mets, which, normally that could be taboo, but there's a bunch of fans here in the area that love their Yankees, but they also love their Syracuse Mets.
It's interesting. It's kind of funny to see, because there's a couple of classes of fans like that. Yeah. So there are the people that just love New York teams. They root for the Mets, they root for the Yankees, and they root for both of them, and they're happy. And then there's the Yankee fans that are Syracusans, and like, all right, we'll root for Syracuse Mets, and the Mets, the Yankees are my major league team, but the Syracuse Mets are my minor league team. And then there's the guy I talked to today, Billy, the Yankee fan. He's going to wear Syracuse Mets gear, except for when Scranton is in town.
Yeah.
And then he's going to wear his Yankee gear. And then there's the guys that are like, you're never going to get me. Yeah. I'm wearing my Yankee stuff, and that's it. And that's fine. What I'm more surprised at is the amount of Mets fans. We are the leading attendance on the road over any other team that comes out. Everybody wants the Syracuse Mets to show up, because we lead the league in attendance when we show up. We are a higher streamed team than the Yankees. And we had the largest amount of fan increase when the Mets went on the field of any team in minor league baseball. There's a ton of Mets fans out there, and it constantly amazes me that they come out in droves and they're diehards.
And what I think also happened is this is an orange and blue town. So the Mets made sense a long time ago, and when it finally happened, I remember driving by and seeing, Syracuse Mets coming soon, and I said one word, finally.
Yeah.
And when it happened, I feel like over these years since the Mets have come here to Syracuse and made this the AAA ballpark that's their home now, to me, yeah, you have Mets fans that are Mets fans that are going to come to your games, but I think the Mets, the New York Mets, have gained fans in Syracuse because of the Syracuse Mets. So it's also gone the other way, where if they didn't have a team, or if they had a team growing up and they didn't really have one now, I feel like you're gaining Mets fans that are now paying attention to the New York Mets because they can see all of the talent come through Syracuse, so they get attached to these guys, try to get their autographs, try to meet them, and then they want to watch them play in New York.
Well, you're nailed it 100%, and I think the reason there's so many Yankee fans around here is because we were the Yankees AAA team. Your father grew up watching the Yankees play at MacArthur Stadium. My father helped me to see the Yankees at MacArthur Stadium before the Blue Jays, and there's a whole generation that grew up like that.
Yeah.
In 10 years, that generation's going to be Mets fans because they're going to grow up with the Mets, and all these kids are going to grow up with the Mets. And we're here for 20 years. We signed a lease. In 20 years, which is, what we're really talking about, those kids that came when they were 4, 5, and 6 years old are going to be 24, 25, 26 years old, starting their own families, watching the Mets that started here in Syracuse, the Beattys, the Alvarezes, the Buteaus. They're on SNY. As the Mets go to the World Series and they see Beatty and Alvarez and Mauricio in the World Series, that's just how it builds, and I think that's one of the things that is important to the Mets. By having a team in Brooklyn, by having a team in Binghamton, by having a team in Syracuse, by having the New York Mets. I'm sorry, Yankee fans. The New York Mets are New York's baseball team.
And that's, like you said, having them in Binghamton, in Brooklyn, and here, keeping it all in-house, because we've seen some weird things happen with AAA, AA, and single A, where there's certain cities that are so far away from that parent team, and in this case, keeping it all in the state of New York, a few hours, Binghamton's an hour away, Brooklyn's a 45-minute plane ride away, so you can really see this talent grow, blossom, and evolve. And I love when the Binghamton fans, they get in touch with me, those Rumble Ponies, and they say to me, hey Dan, watch out for this guy in a couple weeks, he's going to be coming up to you. So it's kind of cool to see that from an hour or so away, those Southern tier fans will drive up to Syracuse because they want to see somebody again.
There was a lot of Rumble Pony shirts the other day at the ballpark. I don't know if it was Saturday or Sunday, but there was a ton of Rumble Pony shirts. And I think that's the nice thing. Our fans go down there to see who's coming up. Their fans come up here to see the guys that were just there. And we have we had our Meet the Mets event the other day. A guy drove from central Pennsylvania, to come up. He's from that town, next door to that town that's on fire. There's like a coal fire, Centralia, Pennsylvania. So he lives close to that. We ended up talking about that. So he came from central Pennsylvania for the event. We have season ticket holders from Governor. We have season ticket holders in Watertown. There's a family that comes from Rochester. I was like, you do know that we just play in Rochester. You can see us there. She goes, we go to all those games, but I bring the family to come over here to watch more games because we love the Mets.
Yeah, and that says something, and it's got to be fun for you because you've seen the evolution of what we've had here, and you've seen different affiliations, with the Blue Jays for over 3 decades, into the Nationals for a little while, and then the Mets. As you've gone through the transition as general manager, what has been most rewarding for you as the shift has come about from franchise to franchise?
I started with the Nationals. Obviously, I was a fan for the Blue Jays years. And then I started with the Nationals. And one of the things that the board of directors at the time thought it was important is like, Jason, you need to get the Nationals on television, you need to get the Nationals on radio here in our market. I go, that's going to be kind of hard to do. I go, you know who's on the TV in our market? The Mets. You know who's on the radio in our market? The Mets. I go, we should just go with the Mets. So, what it is now there's a team with a connection because you can see it on TV, you can hear it on the radio, you know, you see it in the newspapers. It's got a New York connection. And if you're not, in my opinion, in Syracuse, New York, the Mets, the Yankees, maybe the Red Sox, you might as well be the Miami Marlins. It doesn't matter who that team is, because those are the teams that are going to get followed by the people in this community. And now we're lucky enough to be not only have the Mets, but we're owned by the Mets. The Mets have signed a long-term deal to be in Syracuse till 2045. And it's all Mets all the time, baby. This is like Pittsburgh. We're orange and blue. Instead of black and yellow, we're orange and blue.
Yeah, you know, and it is. I mean, it's a lot of fun, and like I talked about the evolution, and you said, you know, being a fan and watching them when they were the Blue Jays affiliate, coming in with the Nationals, and now to the Mets. As you have gone into this ownership by the New York Mets, and they've signed this long-term deal to 2045, it's got to make you feel like, because there was some uncertainty around AAA baseball here for a little while, and where things were going to go, and who was going to be the parent team, and who were going to be the leadership pieces. When the Mets took over and they said, Jason, we want you to stay here, we want you to keep rolling, what did that mean to you about the leadership, and what's your interaction been like with the powers that be that thought, hey, you know what, you know this franchise, even though we're going to be changing parent clubs, you know Syracuse, you know what you're doing in the community, because that has to mean a lot to you in that uncertainty period that we had here in AAA baseball. I was wondering who's staying, who's going, and they said Jason Smorol, keep rocking.
You know, it was fantastic because I don't think that normally happens. You know, so I think that was a big moment for me and our staff to know that they came in, they talked to us, they looked and saw that what we did over the previous few years, and they said this is the team that's going to continue to be able to lead, you know, the Mets vision, the next vision. So it was really validating for myself, for my staff. We kept the same staff, and we've just now we really have something to sell. You know, before we were kind of doing it with smoke and mirrors and weird promotions, and now we can actually promote the baseball. So it's been a feather to our cap and validation to our staff of the hard years that they put in, that we had turned the ship around, you know, from the years of losing some money to making a couple of dollars, you know, to seeing that this is the right path to go on, and now we're just even stronger with the support of the Mets organization.
And how do you feel, you know, from the Mets organization? Do you feel like you can be free? You can kind of just let yourselves experiment and be creative? Do you get a sense for that?
Oh yeah, they understand that we're not the New York Mets, that we're the Syracuse Mets, and they've had a lot of fun for years with the Brooklyn Cyclones and Seinfeld Night and the pizza slices and things of that nature. So they know there's a difference between minor leagues and major leagues. You know, you can't get too crazy, you know, but we can still have fun, you know, and they know at the end of the day that we're just about, you know, our community, building the Syracuse Mets and vicariously the New York Mets brand, you know, and just putting on the most amazing show on dirt, and just building fans and putting on the best product possible. And the Mets help us totally make us a better organization.
You said before it was, you know, so many promotions and different things of that nature. You said now we can promote the baseball. The level of talent that comes through here, just what that's done for you as a baseball fan. Last season, Jacob deGrom, Max Scherzer. I was looking at the list from last year, and you know, you get to see a bunch of them, and then you go and you check the list at the end of the year. And I know that, you know, all these franchises are going to see guys come up and down, but you look at a list of over 30 names, and a lot of those names, you're sitting here saying, that's a top prospect, that's a top prospect, that's another guy who was a diamond in the rough, that's, you know, Jacob deGrom to a lot of people, a reason why some people became Mets fans, Max Scherzer, the same thing. So they weren't just seeing talent here, they were seeing at an extremely affordable price the opportunity to see guys that are all-stars or future all-stars, and it's just, to me, it's exciting. And last year alone, I just remember running over to the ballpark, putting my credential around my neck and snapping a bunch of good shots at Scherzer. I was like, I'm going to get as many of him pitching as I can.
And then you go and look around if you're kind of paying attention, which is hard to do sometimes. I think the Cincinnati Reds have like 4 Syracuse Mets that were on the team last year. I think Chris Drury is now a San Diego Padre, and he was, roaming the fields at historic MVD Bank Stadium, last year. So, we have that level of talent, whether it's the free agents, whether it's the prospects, whether it's the homegrown talent that is coming up. I mean, Buteau pitched last night with the Mets. He didn't have a great outing, so he's still young, but was pitching here last week, and Yakubonis went upstairs and he pitched again yesterday, got a couple of good innings. It wasn't the outcome that we were looking for, but every night, I mean, the baseball, I always say this, there's like 50 million baseball players, or 5 million baseball players in the whole world. The best 750 play Major League Baseball. The next best 750 come through our stadium.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it's the most elite professional athlete in the city of Syracuse. And you can come to a game for $10, and you can get a hot dog for $2 on Thursdays, or your kids can eat for free on Sunday and run the bases after the game. We just make it affordable, and we want to be a little bit of everything for everybody. The baseball is fantastic. The talent is unbelievable. And then if you're not there for the baseball, we specialize in people who don't like baseball. With the fireworks and the giveaways and the meal deals and the in-between inning antics and the different promotions. We just try to make it a lot of fun.
Well, and that's, like you said, you had to get creative and do a lot of different things to get people to come in. It's a hard sell with the Washington Nationals being so far away. But now with the Mets and the organization being where they are, you have this healthy balance, like you said, between people that love baseball and people that maybe don't love baseball, but they want to go out to something. It's a nice night. They want to give it a shot. What I liked about what you do is, my pup, Lily, a little dog that I have, she absolutely loves hanging out with her dad. And she is very, very human, like, to the point where, like, she'll just sit. You'll forget she's a dog. She's like so well behaved. So I got to bring her out last season to see the Mets, and to me that was so cool to be like, to look at her and say, you want to go to a baseball game? So I mean, you do really unique and special things that are not just for the kids, but they're for our furball kids too, which I think is fun.
The bark of the barks are great. We've had our first one already. It was so cold. We had 70 dogs there. Our next one is May 24th. Weather's going to be nice, and then those nice weather ones, we'll get close to 200 dogs. And I think, those are special nights when you can go bring your dog to a ball game. You'd love to bring your dog everywhere with you.
Yeah.
And I'm one of those guys too. We bring our dogs everywhere. My dogs get excited when I say, you want to go to the Mets? And they know we're going to go to the stadium. So we do bring our dogs to work sometimes. So again, we've got the skeletal girth. We want to do fun things. It's not like we're doing anything that no other team does. And this minor league stuff has crept up to the major leagues. I mean, they do the barks in the parks. They're more, they got away from the bobbleheads, and now they're all back into the bobbleheads, and they're all doing the marble things and the different nights that the minor league teams were doing for years, because that's the name of the game. We're in the entertainment business, and we have 18 half-inning breaks, and we have that opportunity to play the dizzy bat race, or to shoot somebody out of a cannon, or to do something fun, and it just adds to the experience of the game.
Do you have, I know we've talked about it before, but promotion-wise this season, do you have one that you get really, really like extra excited about? Is there something that just kind of catches you differently that you want to make sure you go out and watch? Or, I mean, the Marvel stuff is such, I mean, for me personally, because I link sports and Marvel all the time, entertainment, because we have superpowered pop. So I love that side to it. I know that those are unique and fun, but do you have one that really sticks out to you?
I like the ones that, to me, it's Little League night. So on Little League night, we have about 3,000 kids, on the field before the game. in that Little League parade, and they're with their little banners, they're wearing their little uniforms. Excuse me. And you see that parade, and they come marching out, and they're all the way around the field, and we're foul pole to foul pole, and the end of the parade hasn't even started yet, and you can just see the smiles on those little kids' faces. The first 3,000 kids get a jersey, and we finish it with fireworks, and at the end of each night I go and sit out in front of the stadium and thank people for coming. And you just see the smiles on their faces and the smiles on their parents' faces that for the last 2.5, 3 hours, they got to make some memories and just go back home. And the amount of foul balls that go out of that stadium, I mean, it seems like every kid gets a foul ball, but especially when those little kids get a little foul ball, and it's just, I can't get enough of that. I just when we see the smiles on people's faces when they leave the stadium, just and those Marvel days when they come and they get a picture with Black Panther or Ant-Man or Captain America. It just adds to the ability of making a memory for a family or for a boyfriend and girlfriend, or the people that meet at the stadium and fall in love and get why you would want to get engaged in the baseball stadium is beyond me, but people do it every year.
And I got to give you credit going off of the Marvel side and this hat as well. You have stepped your game up in the merchandising over the years, and I'm the type of person where if I want to go, and I got at least 200 hats in my house, if I'm going to go out and I'm going to find a hat, I want to go to a place that's not going to give me 4 choices or 6 choices. I want a place that's going to give me 30 choices. You have hats upon hats upon hats all over the place, and I got to give that up to you. There's a wall of hats, then there's hats on different displays, the shirts, the Marvel jerseys, and all that. You have drastically, as the Mets, to me, just up the ante on that, and I can't help myself in there. I love this hat, but I'm probably going to buy a different one this year.
Well, and that's a nice hat because it just has an S on it. That's for the Yankee fans right there, so they can support us and not have to. Doesn't say Mets anywhere on it. And, tribute to Katie Stewart, our assistant general manager.
Just an S and an S.
She's crafty in there, and she has such a great eye, and she's just smart, and she talks to the teams that lead the minor leagues in merchandise, the Toledo Mud Hens of the world, the Indianapolis Indians, the Hillsborough House, some of these teams, they sell a ton of stuff. The El Paso Chihuahuas, they do a great job. And we just go talk to those people, collaborate with them, find out what works for them, and variety is the spice of life, because what you might like might not be what I like, so we want to make sure that there's something for everybody. And each and every year she does a fantastic job.
I gotta give her a lot of credit then, because
if I say that I like something, she says, all right, we're not gonna get that, we're gonna get this. So she's smart enough not to listen to me.
Well, that's the thing too, is you have to think about what so many people are going to enjoy, right?
If it was up to me, we'd have sweater vests and ringer T-shirts and trucker hats. And she throws me a bone every once in a while. I'm wearing my sweater vest. She's not on board with the ringer T-shirts.
Okay, all right. Yeah, because I mean, there's so many different things. There's so many ways to get involved. There's the entertainment side of it, but then, like we talked about, there's that talent, and the other part of it too is Major League Baseball made a bunch of rule changes this year, but they were implemented first in the minor leagues. So when you have the pitch clock, when you have these different things about the disengagements that are coming through, what can a pitcher do, how many can they have, how many can a batter have when they're up at the plate each time, then you look at the shift, the bigger bases, all of these things that they're implementing, you're testing this stuff in the minor leagues, so you got to see it before the majors got to see it. What does that mean to you, and what does it mean to you, number one, that you got to be a test ground for it, and number two, that the majors picked it up?
I was surprised when I went back this year and I looked, because they were making such a big, rightfully so, a big deal out of the pitch clocks. And I went back to look, to see how long we've been doing it. We've been doing the pitch clock since 2015. I was shocked at that. We did the bigger bases last year. This year no shift is new. The disengagement rule is new. But I was shocked that we've been doing the pitch clock for that long. And our games have been, 2 hours and 45 minutes when they want to enforce it. So when we first implemented it in 2015, we were playing 2 hours and 45-minute games. And we play 2 hours and 45-minute games because generally we're losing in the bottom of the ninth and we have to play that extra half inning. This year, we play 2.5-hour games because we're winning in the bottom of the ninth and we don't have to play that extra half inning. So if you're winning, you play 2.5-hour games. If you're losing, you play 2 hours and 45-minute games. But then they stopped enforcing it.
Yeah.
And so we crept back up into the 3 hours a game time limit. And then in 2021, they went back to enforcing it, and we went back to that 2:45. And this year, right now, we're at 2:34 a game. So I think 2.5 hours is the perfect time for a game.
Yeah.
2:45 I'm fine with if we come back to win. We start getting near over three. I don't really need that, but whatever. But I love the rule changes. I love that it's piqued the interest in baseball. I think that the pitch clock keeps things moving. It's all about the pace of the game, which is really getting back to what the pace used to be. Before all the guys, the batters just hanging outside the pitcher's box or the batting box and adjusting their gloves. And those Red Sox games, it would take like 4.5 hours to play. So I hope that they keep it for the playoffs. I know that they're thinking about not having it in the playoffs. But I'll be interested to see. I'm not a big fan of the shift rule. I think that you should be allowed to shift, and I think the hitters should hit it where they're not shifted to.
Yeah.
But that is what it is, and we'll see how it goes.
Well, and I'm against it too in the sense of the fact that, I think you want each team to have their own little wrinkles, and that kind of takes the scheming out of it. Because when you ban the shift, now you're taking away from teams that are really good at positioning where they're going to hit the ball.
Yeah.
And on the defensive side, teams that are good at kind of anticipating things. So I do miss it, but like they said, whatever the line is, they're going right to that line because they're trying to kind of follow, not follow the rule. But the pitch clock, like you said, it's surprising to me to hear 2015 because you don't really notice it until these last couple of years in the minor leagues where you're sitting there and you're waiting and you're watching a Mets game last season and you turn and you see it ticking down. But people have a problem with the phantom balls and the phantom strikes, but I think you got to have a pitch clock, and the disengagements are helpful because of the fact that it's going to minimize those extra minutes in the game. And like you said, the fixing my glove 3 times and all that stuff.
I'm wondering if they're going to just hurry up and do the 2 disengagements to almost beg the guy to steal a base. Saying, all right, now you got to go.
Yeah.
Now I know that I don't have to worry about you, so now we're ready for you to steal a base. And I wonder, because the players are going to make the adjustments.
Yeah.
They're smart enough to make the adjustments. The coaches are smart enough to say, if we do this, then this puts them in that. That's the game of baseball. It's all about strategy, and it's about making people do things that they don't necessarily want to do. So I'm interested to see how the players react because they know how to play. They're smart, and they'll get around the rules and take advantage of the rules. And they'll work within the system, but it'll be interesting to see what they do to the system.
Yeah, so we continue to see it, but the minors got to test it, and I think that's a great place, and it gives you a little claim to fame when you see it happening in the majors. A final note before we wrap up here with Jason Smorol in this Syracuse Mets Spotlight on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora from inside of the Wildcat Sports Pub, 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus. Do you have a difficult time in the world of, because I realize this over almost 20 years of being a broadcaster, you get close to people professionally and you learn how quick it's a business when you walk in the next game and the locker is cleaned out. Have you struggled with building relationships with some of these guys and then waking up in the morning and finding out they were either called up or they were traded?
No, it's part of the game, and for me, I root for the guys. You get to know the players, whether they're with the Nationals, and then like the next, I went over to the Durham Bulls locker room to see Nick Diney, who was a catcher for us last year.
Yeah.
When Rochester was in town, I went next door and saw Travis Blankenhorn, who was an outfielder for us. So the whole coaching staff for the Red Wings, or used to be the coaching staff for the Chiefs. So baseball is a small world. We get that it's a business that we're not in control of, and we wish the best for everybody. And sometimes going to another organization is going to be better for that person's career. They get a fresh start, which could be good for them. So we just cheer people on. We just hope that they do well. We hope that eventually they make it to the major leagues. We hope they stay in the major leagues. And if you build that relationship with somebody, it doesn't matter if they're a Met or a Twin or a Oriole or a National, you still got that. Then you could razz them when they come to town and tell them the same jokes. So I look forward to seeing the guys that used to be here. I remember one story back in the day. I was 2014, 2015, and I see Eric Kratz, and he was a long-time, major league player, and I saw his face on the video board. So I went into the locker room after the game, and I said, "Hey, Kratz, how you doing?" I said, "I saw your face on the video board. I had to come down." He said, "I heard you out there on the microphone before the game saying, 'Welcome everybody to the most amazing show on dirt, or the beautiful day for baseball in Central New York.'" He goes, "You know what I realized? If I'm seeing you again, I've been in this game too long." Because he was on his way down. And then he still had 3 or 4 more years in the major leagues after that. But you just run into these guys, and if you have a good relationship with them, it's great. And then sometimes if you have a bad relationship with them and you see them somewhere else, they come back and they're like, "Hey, how you doing? Yeah, sorry I was a jerk to you while I was here." It all works out.
Do you have a pre-game ritual for yourself? Is there something before the ballpark or when you go into the ballpark? Is there something that you do beforehand? Music, superstitions? Is there a Jason Smorol shtick, so to speak?
There is. I park in the same spot every day. I park in the until we're losing, then I move that spot slightly. But I park in the last spot next to a grease bucket. And then I have a little something that I do in the clubhouse with the team, before the game, that cannot be said on air.
Fair enough. All right. my last, they're gonna tell me off the air. My last note is for you to be on that microphone. I'm used to it. So, like I said, almost 20 years, and growing up as a kid, I started performing, doing different things in my life when I was little. So when I hand somebody a microphone and I don't get that, because to me, in my head, everybody can be on a mic. You do it at the ballpark. What made you comfortable in that world of public speaking? Is it something you always wanted to do? And what can you say about, kind of finding your personality out there?
I've always been a ham since a little kid. I remember, being in a powder blue suit at weddings, and telling jokes like I was Shecky Green when I was 6 years old. I think I had a handful of jokes. So I always did, we sang in the chorus, we were in the school plays, and I've always been a little bit of a ham. So to me, my vision at the ballpark is of P.T. Barnum and the Ringmaster, where we are on the field, we are having fun, we're telling jokes. The straight man is the public address announcer, and that on-field host. And we have a great one this year. Jaden Becker is fantastic to engage with those kids while they're doing the Wildcat Sports Pub mascot race at historic NBT Bank Stadium, and to bring that energy. So if you go to the game, you'll see that we have a beginning and a middle and an end. We welcome everybody. It's a little bit more rah-rah than most minor league baseball teams or any professional baseball team.
Yeah.
And then we fill it up with the mid-game stuff. We wrap it all up at the end of the night, and it creates that you can expect that same thing, and you get familiar with it, hopefully, and you like it. And there's little variances to it. There's little jokes that we throw in here and there, but not everybody is built to be on the mic, as you very well know. And I just happen to like it and can do it and have done it in the past. So, but I don't do the on-field stuff anymore. I just do the pregame shtick and the post-game before the fireworks. And I like but I'm so happy that we have a great fan experience team, and we have a great on-field host this year, Jaden. And you know what? If he keeps like this, I'll give him the microphone for the pregame shtick too.
We got 2 quick questions here. One says, Jason, what's your take on the Savannah Bananas? Have you sensed there's a lot of hype for their upcoming appearances in Central New York?
The Savannah Bananas are awesome. I love the Bananas. I've been following them since their inception. I used to live in Savannah, and I would go to Savannah Sand Gnats games, and I think they were a Mets affiliate back then. But I love that there's just no holes barred. There's no rules, right? So that guy is like us on steroids. I mean, there's no rules. So it's great, and people love it. You know, the hype is real. The game is sold out. They announced it. There was 15,000 people on a waiting list. We have 10,000 seats. They're not adding anybody to the waiting list. The waiting list has now become a lottery for you to be able to buy tickets for that game. So that game's already sold. So that means the hype is real.
Yeah.
You know, and in this day and age, the people that got to the party late and didn't know who the Savannah Bananas were or how to get tickets, you know, they're all calling me. They're like, hey, how do I get a ticket? I know Smorol, I can get a ticket. You can't get a ticket because you got to get them from the Savannah Bananas and it's sold out. So I can't wait for them to come. They're coming September 14th. And Banana Ball is going to be something fun to see.
We got it, and I'm excited about that too. I just like the way it rolls off the tongue, Savannah Banana.
Right.
But we got another one from Chris here. Any current Mets on the DL coming to Syracuse for rehab?
Not that I know about. You know, none of the major ones. I mean, I don't know what Verlander's plan is. I don't know what Scherzer's plan is. You know, it's how it works out. You know, it's where we are. You know, where, you know, like Nagosic was just with us, and I think that I just saw that he's going to play in Binghamton today. So it really depends upon the schedule.
Yeah.
We really get kind of a last-minute notification as to who we're going to get and when we're going to get them. So, you know, we'll find out.
And coming here from Jason Smorol, the general manager of the Syracuse Mets in the Syracuse Mets Spotlight, on site on location at the Wildcat Sports Pub. Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is with you here every single month at the Wildcat for almost 8 years now. Love our partnership here with Danny Tillman and the team. And of course, Wake Up Call is with you every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time on YouTube.com, Facebook.com, both /Wake Up Call DT, on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. And once we go live, you can find us on Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, MixLR, Player FM, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, Podvine, TuneIn, YouTube, and more by searching Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. So, with that being said, Mr. Smorol, as always, it's been my pleasure.
Thank you, Dan. You're great. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
We'll talk.